Welcome back to Magnetic. Today's guest took on one of the toughest aisles in the grocery store and flipped the script on a childhood staple. Margaret Wishing Grad is a co-founder and CEO of Three Wishes Cereal, a better-for-you brand that's reinventing cereal with clean ingredients, bold flavors, and a whole lot of heart. What started as a mom's mission to feed her family better has turned into a fast-growing challenger brand that's now on shelves nationwide. Margaret's journey is all about betting on yourself, disrupting legacy industries, and building a brand that actually stands for something. In this episode, we get into what it's like to launch a company as a family, how to earn shelf space and consumer trust, and why authenticity and grit are non negotiables in the world of CPG. Margaret Wishingad, welcome to Magnetic. I'm excited to have you here. Yeah, it's been what, 3 years, 4 years?
7 years.
Has it been four? Might be four.
I think we've been probably 3.5-ish.
3.5.
It's crazy.
Yeah, wild. And
I
you
know.
guys have grown so much since then.
Yeah.
I bet both personally and the company.
Yeah. You grow in all you don't even expect these things. They just happen.
So I want to start with your personal narrative because I feel like that's the most important context in any of these conversations is really like, why are you doing Three Wishes?
I
And
ask myself that same question most
it's just-
mornings. I'm like, why am I doing this?
and what was the driving factor and the passion, years ago when you first started even looking at your kids and saying, "Hey, I want to put this together." I'd love to start there because that's going to give us the passionate context of
The base of the
the
why.
baseline of the
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
My background with my husband is that we have our own creative agency. We've worked on clients big, small, you name them. And we really love building brands. But I think we always wanted to figure out, what if we want to build something, what do we want to
Yeah.
build outside of the agency? And then you have a kid, and so many things start to avail themselves. One, you realize that so many people make brilliant, genius innovation for like children. And then you have this like perfect, pure I mean, you've held your babies, but, like, you look at this perfect little baby you just made, and you're like, "Oh, I can't stuff it with crap," even though I was probably eating french fries weeks before having
Yeah.
my kids,
It's
but you look at them and the
fair.
world changes, and in that moment, you're like, "I'm gonna give you the most pure everything, and I'm gonna, like, protect you from everything in the world," and it's just like a parent instinct,
Mm,
and then, fast forward, your kid's now sitting up, they're learning how to eat, they're learning little finger foods, and one thing you've always seen, you see kids in a stroller, they always have a little cup, and it's typically a yellow box of cereal that you're familiar with that is in that cup, and that for me felt like we've made all of these upgrades and changes in our food, whether it
yeah.
was like taking your tortilla chips to siete or your pastas to banza or any of your other foods, and to me, it felt crazy that was what? Now my oldest is almost 8, so it was 7 years ago,
Yeah.
and there was nothing in stores that felt like, "Wow, what's the alt for this?" For cereal,
Mm,
and then you start perusing the aisles of Whole Foods, and you're like, "Okay, great, there's a couple brands," but you turn it to the side, and you're like, it's made out of the same ingredients as the cereal boxes in
yeah.
the naughtier aisle, but you a little bit more marketing, everything's kinda, like, greenwashed a little bit, you have a
Yeah.
little bit more, like, fortified with whatever,
Yeah, or it was like
and
an adult brand that tried to manufacture its way to being better for your kids.
Totally. And
But
so that was kind of the moment where we're like, wow, such a massive category. 90+% of American households have a box of cereal in their home. And for me to like look in that set and go, wow, there's really nothing here for my own family.
yep.
I can't be the only one. And so then you start talking to a bunch of people. And for me, it was moms that just had kids, or sometimes it's moms with older kids, and sometimes it's single people or grandparents, because cereal is one of those things that everybody and their mother eats. And so everyone validated a similar sentiment, which was I departed from cereal. And I was like, but why?
Mm,
And so for moms of boys, it was because there's not enough protein and they need to fill them up. And there's a lot of sugar, they'll have a sugar crash. For moms of girls, there was a lot of, oh, there's too much sugar. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Vain, but okay. And then on the grain-free and the gluten-free part we get to in a second, but I think everybody, depending on their age and where they were in their life, was looking for a different thing from
yeah.
cereal that it no longer served. And then when you kind of look at the construction of cereal, it really is these, like, super, super processed grains that really don't have a ton of nutritional value, and that's when I was like, "What can I use to make and experience that same crunch and that same bowl experience and milk and all those things that you love in cereal? What's neutral enough to give it that experience?" And so that was when we thought, "Okay, grains really aren't serving, let's kind of rethink
Yeah.
it." And so that was when we started to work with chickpea pea protein tapioca, which sound extremely unsexy. Nobody's like, "Oh, you know what I had for breakfast today? It was
Sugar and
incredible."
protein. Yeah.
And so that took 2 years of food science and just tasting a bunch of really not so great cereal to
Yeah.
finally get there.
And you didn't come from the space either.
No,
So this was all,
no.
like,
But
net
the
new.
irony is that when like, before I went to college, I turned to my parents when I was in high school, and I'm like, "I wanna go to culinary school." And as a child of immigrants, I am an immigrant, my parents were like, "No, that's a hobby, that's not, like, that's not a job." But I was like, "Oh, cute." And so as the world would have it, I ended up back in food in a completely different
Yeah.
way, but, like, love to cook, love to create. I
So
think
that's
it's,
probably
like, what's in
fun
my
for
bones.
you that it wasn't like, "Oh, I gotta go figure out how to create." This was probably more of an exploration of your
Oh,
past passion.
completely,
Yeah.
completely. But I also, like, I love a challenge. I'm, like, a freak for a challenge. I think for so many people, everyone was like, "Oh, how was your COVID? How was your lockdown?" And I'm like, "I don't know, guys. It was really peaceful. We had a great time. I cooked 97 new
Yeah.
things. Like, I mastered so many things that you no longer had outside access to. Like, I still cut my husband's hair and my kid's hair.
That's
Why?
amazing.
Looks great."
Yeah.
I'm like, so I've learned all these fun skills, and so for me, that challenge was just, like, exhilarating, and similarly with here, once we identified it was cereal, I had so many people that would say, like, "Oh, you can't get it can't be done with these ingredients, it can't be done this way," and I was like, "Nah, well, we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Give it 2 years." But you get there.
It's so incredible to see that you started 7 to 8 years ago where I feel like it was you didn't have this coattail. Like, there's a coattail now
Yeah.
with, the politics and
Yeah.
policy changes and, like, just the sheer awareness of what are you putting in your mouth and what are you digesting. Was that much harder to navigate for like, I guess you did 2 years of the process, so that kinda, like, took those off the map, but
Yeah, I think a big part of it was also, like, our strategy of bringing this product to market. For the first couple of years, we really focused on natural channels, so, like,
mm,
where your intent was high. Your consumer at Whole Foods,
that's what I've
5 years
respected about you
ago.
guys. You haven't really, like, blitzed it.
Yeah. So
You've
year 1, we're like, "Okay, where do people wanna find healthy things?" It's probably at that point in time, wasn't your super
no,
conventional
it was
grocery
natural.
stores. So we're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, great." Like and for me, something that I've always wanted to do with a brand is remain number 1 at Erewhon, but also try to get to number 1 at
Mm,
Walmart, right? So being, like, cool and I don't wanna say niche because it's not
that's
niche,
a cool
like
perspective.
but to
Yeah.
keep it, like, cool and exciting and to do things that feel so new and fresh for people that they still wanna buy it in their cooler niche stores, but also, like, accessible and mass enough where it's priced well, where people can make that change in their life. And so we kind of did that step by, like, "Great, let's start natural."
Yeah.
Once you did really
Create the
well in that
demand and
create the demand, but
awareness.
also you can do a lot of depth there. So, like, you started with 3 SKUs, you go to 4, 5, 6. The next thing you know, like, you have a good shelf space, in natural. Then you kind of look at, "Okay, what's the next step?" Let's go conventional. And you start to just kind of graduate and get to the point. Because I think what people forget is retailers are just it's real estate. That's all you're getting. They're doing nothing for you. So it's real estate with foot traffic, and you just
Yeah.
wanna make sure it's the right real estate with the right foot traffic, with the right product at the right price point, and then you're good.
Yeah. 7, 8 years of just focus on cereal for a family that I feel like has a lot of big ideas. How do you manage that? 'Cause I'm sure you guys you seem very inspired, like, you and your husband are always looking at awesome things, and
Yeah.
I feel like you embody that as a person too.
Yeah.
How does that
That's a good
do you keep, it compartmentalized?
Yeah, so I think
Or
in cereal, what's fun well, 1, it's just such a fun category because it's like there's, like, a little bit of a naughtiness to it, it's cute,
yeah,
and then in cereal, it's also, like, everyone has a memory of one like, that aisle is 40 feet, like, it's obscene, right? And so everyone has one cereal that they love, and it's usually a unique flavor, like, some people are like, "Oh, I like a cinnamon type or a cocoa
yeah,
type," or whatever, and that let us kind of start to develop all of those things, and we got to now we have our core set and our flavors, but where we have a lot of funds are LTOs. And I think especially in natural food
LT limited time
limited time
offers,
offering,
yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah.
that I'm just talking in
The
lingo.
the consumer
Sorry,
slang,
sorry, guys.
yeah,
Um, but with with limited time flavors no, but with our special edition flavors, which are fun because for me, they're almost like a sneaker drop, like, they'll come in for a few weeks, you can get them, you buy them, and once they're gone, and, like, you're not seeing them maybe you'll see them next year, maybe you won't,
yeah,
and I think that's what creates some, like, excitement and demand for this really just, like, short amount of time, and so with that, we looked at it and we're like, "Oh, nobody's doing anything fun or exciting in, like, the healthy sets. Everyone's going for, like, Easterized, whatever type of other cereal, and so we're like, "No, we could do it." And so every season, basically from January through
mm,
December, we're doing something fun and special. This next one is my favorite one. I'm not allowed to have favorites because like, every new flavor that
Yeah.
comes out, that one becomes the favorite, but
Yeah.
this one is really close to my heart. So, typically, we do a team call on Zoom every week, everyone kinda joins in, we'll run through, like, whatever's happening.
How big is the team now?
We're at 10.
Okay.
And so
Pretty tight still, which is awesome.
for
Yeah.
our size of business, I'm like, "We have efficiency and output, we love it."
Yeah.
But what's fun is if you look at the bottom of every box of ours, because that's the most useless real estate that nobody looks at outside of, like,
Yeah.
UPC, we have a little story on, like, who from the team came up with it. So on our team
Really?
hangs yeah,
Oh,
it's like a
never looked at the bottom.
well, you've
There you
never
go.
spent enough time looking
Yeah.
in the box. But by the way, we have people that, like, will email us about it, and it's the cutest. But so everyone that comes up so, like, every week we'll have a team hang, and we're like, "Hey, guys, like, we have Valentine's Day 2026. Like, what's everyone thinking?" And we'll all just, like, spitball one, and one ends up becoming a winner, and it makes its shelf. It's there, and it's fun for the team. But this one is my son. So Ellis came to me now probably close to a year ago.
How old is he,
He's
Ellis?
turning 8
Okay.
in a few weeks. And he was like, "Mom, I have an idea." And I'm like, "Okay, what's the idea? Tell me." And he's like, "Cotton candy." And I'm like, "How did we not cotton candy?
Yeah.
Obvious, like, duh." And part of me was like, "Oh, it might taste artificial. I don't know." So, like, before we end up going with the flavor, we obviously R&D it to try it to see it is so good, and the packaging is so fun. And for me, the most beautiful thing has been watching my kid now go, "Wow, I came up with an idea. It is
Mm.
created and is now coming to market," and to see that, like, sense of fulfillment and him telling his classmates, and he now goes to his teachers, like, whatever class he's in,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, can my parents come in and talk?" And they're like, "Sure, what about?" And he's like, "Oh, we have a cereal company, like, I want them to come and talk to the class." And he will literally set it up, lobby for us to come, give me
That
the
is
time and
so
date,
awesome.
and so I just show up and I'm like, "All right, guys, we're gonna talk about cereal." Like, it's a great time.
Yeah.
They love it. But seeing his
Yeah,
pride
imagine what you just did to
in the
his,
brand,
perspective
oh my
on
god.
building a brand.
His ego and confidence is it's there.
It's
No,
funny
but
because my son, we're good friends with Carly, the founder of Beekeepers,
mhm.
and, he I saw the video too, he was, like, 3.5 and was like, "She should have a watermelon flavor," or whatever, and she ended up developing it, and, she actually just sent us a huge box with, like, a written card for him and all that. Was super cute. But sometimes we were just talking about this on a different show, like, kids have the best ideas,
'Cause
and
they're just not
yeah,
affected by the world and, like,
yeah,
not fazed by things, so they'll just, like, spitball things. But by the way, they have the best feedback too, because as we develop product, I'm like, "Ellis, tell me what you really think." And he's like, "Mom, 7 out of 10." I'm like, but I get the 10s a lot. I get the 10s out of
yeah,
10s.
yeah,
So he's
but it's
very
real, they keep
honest.
it real.
Yeah, and
So
my
cotton candy's coming out.
so Cotton Candy's coming out this summer,
Okay,
and he's going to camp, and so he's like, "When is it coming out? Like, am I gonna be at camp when you get it? Like, can you send it to me?" And I'm
yeah.
like, "I got you. I got you and your homies covered, Ellis,
Has it
don't worry."
become more fun to have them more I mean, the brand is named after them,
Yeah,
right? To
it's after our
Yeah,
family,
after your
so it's
family.
after the
Yeah,
Wishing Grad. So, yeah,
yeah,
and, like, they're excited, they bring it to school, but they're like, "Can I bring the box in so I can show people?" Because no one believes me that I'm on the back of the box, and I'm like, "You flex on 'em, Ellis, you
yeah,
bring it
yeah,
into
show and
school,
tell.
you tell 'em."
Yeah.
But no, they have so much pride, and, like, now we've become known in town as, like, "Oh, the cereal family." I was like, "Oh, I'll take it, the cereal family," whatever that means, but it's really cool to see your kids walk around and, like, they love wearing the merch all the time, so they're always just, like, they're out there repping.
Yeah, innovation. So you got flavors. You
We have
you
2 other products
you
we
do
launched last
granola.
year. We did a granola, and then we launched a granola bar
Okay.
this
I don't think
past
I've tried
fall.
that. I've tried the cereal and granola.
Yeah.
You did a bar too.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we did a chewy granola bar, and part of it's inspired by kind of like what's in my one, granola was a very, like, obvious, you make
Yeah.
cereal, what else in this occasion are you gonna give consumers the permission to continue consuming with excitement and just, like, that same three wishes promise, and so granola, for the longest time, I think everyone thinks is, like, the healthiest thing, but it really is a ton of carbs, ton of sugar,
Sugar. Yeah.
not a ton of protein, it doesn't really fill you up, it's kind of similar to cereal where it was, like, super just sugary and not the greatest for you. And so with granola, we did that same thing where it's grain-free, it's, high protein, low sugar, and so that one was great and obvious. The bars were think like Quaker Chewy bar. So, like,
Yep.
chocolate
I
chip,
grew up on
s'more
those.
right.
Those are my favorite
So, like,
chewy
everyone's
bars. Yeah.
lunchbox as a kid was, like, one of these bars,
Yep.
and
Just
the
throw
amount
one
of
in.
times my kids would ask for them and Ian would go buy another brand of them, and they're either the healthier ones they didn't love, and obviously the sugary ones that
Like
are
Go
like, "Oh, these
Macro
are
has a
great."
ton of sugar, I think.
So,
Yeah.
the super sugary ones, they obviously love, and so I'm like, these kids are crushing these. I'm like, "The repeat on these, Ian? Through the roof.
Yeah.
We need these." So we just started to develop them, and this also kind of started around the time of the recall last year um, around all the bar recalls because there were Chewy recalls, and that was a great time for us to come in and go, "Great, cleaner, better." And I
Yep.
think consumers as a whole are, I don't wanna say exhausted by the big brands, but they like, everyone knows a little bit better now, to your point,
Yeah,
as
so look at
health
Poppy and
becomes
all these companies. It's
it's
incredible.
a mainstream kind of moment, and I also think there's something cultural and, like, status about it to have these more premium brands and, like, to be someone that looks for health in all the
Yeah.
things you eat, where it was probably not as exciting a couple years back. But
Yeah.
now is that kind of moment, and I don't know, this just gave everyone that kinda, like, permission and enjoyment in a product that felt naughty for a very long time. It feels good now.
I love that. I think as a consumer from my own family and for my son, trust is an important
Yes,
topic,
huge.
right? Because I think the information is just so widespread. I can believe what you're telling me here, and I love the product myself, and so it's a very easy conversation for this, but many brands that even tout that they are better for you are not. And then there's this other whole factor of scale, and I think people, even the normal consumers, now realizing, oh, when brands scale, they do have to make their procedures and their processes more efficient, and therefore get rid of maybe some of more of the natural, trusted side of the brand to replace it with more manufactured processes. How have you guys navigated that, and maybe what's the vision on continuing to protect that?
Yeah.
Because I think protecting that is what, at least from a mainstream consumer lens, that's what they're all caring about. Like, "Oh, is Poppy gonna be
Are
a
they
shitty
swapping out
soda
all the
now?"
ingredients
Siete,
tomorrow?
right? Same
Right.
thing.
I think the thing that sometimes consumers don't know is, like, some of those things aren't so easy, right? You're gonna lose so much. It's not all ingredients are just like a one-for-one swap, and not everyone's cutting corners on things. Sure, I'm sure those companies may or may not
Yeah,
do or change, but the thing around cereal where it's, you were talking about processes and efficiencies, this was never a product I could have made in a commercial home kitchen, right? There's no, like, KitchenAid attachment to screw on and just, like, crank out cereal. It just doesn't work like that. So this had to, from day one, which is, by the way, why the bar is so high and why the risk is so high, is you couldn't just come into, like, a little space, and you had to do this in a large commercial setting. So you
I
had to be
see.
the teeniest
You
fish in a
can't be the company
humongous
making it out of your kitchen.
no.
Yeah.
So you had to be the tiniest fish in this enormous pond.
Mm.
And, every time you run one of these trials, it's a ton of money that you're taking out from your own pocket to invest in this, like, dream and passion that you have, and I believed in it enough to go, "I'm gonna keep trying, I'm gonna keep trying," and we just kept doing it until it was perfect. And so here, this is kinda like this is what makes the product special. Swapping any one of these ingredients or processes or anything would completely change it, and that's, like, something I'm never willing to do because it's a product my own family eats. Like,
Yeah.
it's something that's in our lives all the time, and it's what makes it special.
Yeah. That's what the beauty, and I'm not calling out any major conglomerates for this, but most of the time those CEOs aren't eating that stuff at home,
Right,
right? And then, you're marketing it to the rest of America.
right.
So that's really important. How else do you integrate consumer feedback at this point in your company life cycle?
So for a very long time, up until recently, because my team yelled at me about it, I would go in the DMs all the time and just see what people are saying, and I'm like, "I wanna see all the emails, I wanna see the DMs, I wanna see the
Just product
reviews."
feedback.
Yeah, I just wanna see what people are
Yeah.
saying, like, are they having and then when
That's crazy.
feedback
I feel like I would get obsessed with that if you let me
oh,
into the rabbit hole.
fixation.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, what are they saying?"
Yeah.
And then for a hot minute, sometimes I'd, like, pop on and do a video and send them to customers, and they're like, "What's happening?" Like, it was great. And then I like to kind of see if there's a trend, is it one-off? Like, how are they feeling?
Mm.
And I think that touch point for the customers, like, I want them to know there are humans behind this brand, and this isn't just, like, a corporation that's making you feel a certain way. So we really love to keep it super human with how we're interacting with people and really help them understand that this feedback is super valuable, and it's not like a customer service, like, "Great, thanks for letting me know." And so, like, we'll keep in constant contact with them on certain things.
That's
I
awesome.
have customers that, like, I'll give them my email, I'm like, "Email me. Like, if
Yeah.
you don't like the next batch that we send you, email me. I wanna know." It's awesome.
Did you go to Expo West this year?
I did not. My husband went. So Ian went. I had no babysitting coverage, which was exciting. So the team kept sending me selfies with all of my favorite other founders. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is cool, guys. Thanks.
I wanna get into the personal stuff on how you've navigated building with kids and all that in a little bit, but on a trend topic, like, every year that I've gone to Expo West for the last 4 years, I feel like it's been the same stuff, just, like, reframed for the consumer.
Yeah.
How has that impacted the decade you guys have been working on this? And does it really move your mentality left and right? You guys pretty much like, "Hey, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I
Let's
think it's
stay in a
very
straight way."
founder specific. So I am a like F the noise human through and through. That is like who I am. So there could be a million of trends and like I really stick to my guns on things. And I think even if you look at like, when we launched and what other brands did, everyone was like running D2C and I was like a brick and mortar. Like I'm just a rebel by nature. And by the way, we make everybody that joins our team take a personality test to
Just
understand
talking about that
like
earlier,
where
yeah.
you fall. And I'm the only Ian and myself are the only rebels. And
What
that
was the
like
test?
it was like, are you an obliger,
Do you remember the
a
name of
questioner?
the te
No, I'll send it to you. But
Yeah.
it was an obliger, a questioner, something else, and then a rebel. And I'm like, I don't know that I need to hire any rebels. This is great. But no, we are just like that's who our personality, like that's who we
Mhm.
are at the core. And so for me, I don't care what anybody else is doing. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know what my mission is. I know how to get it done. And I'm just obviously like feedback from customers and things like that are helpful. But things like trends or things like are gonna be hot for 2 minutes, I'm not really bothered by that.
Yeah. It's noise.
100%.
Yeah. Super interesting. Alright, this is why I like the thesis of magnetic. It's not just about what you've built an amazing company, and it's not just about your success, and I think the monetary success that you guys have had, but diving into the EQ side, how has this changed you as a person? I mean, you're literally working with your husband for the last 8 years. You're raising 3 kids,
2.
2.
But Ian does fall in that bucket sometimes, so we
Whenever
can say
I said 3
3.
because I think 3 wishes,
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Ian's you
Ian's
could
one of the
consider
kids,
him a
don't worry.
child.
Yeah.
2 kids. You know, I have my people like my wife, who's an entrepreneur, who's trying to strike the balance between motherhood and, just brand building and all of that. Probably so many more people across the country who are looking at folks like yourself that are like, "Holy shit, how's she doing it all?" How has that impacted your story? Have you navigated that side of the business and personally?
So to rewind to the initial, which was how did this change me as a person, I think so much of so, like, Ian is like, "We'll talk to anybody, ask all the questions," just, like, puts it all out there, and I think this business taught me a little bit to be a little bit more comfortable with that and to just, like, go and share your dream and your passion. Not everything needs to be buttoned up, and, like, being really personal is the entire sauce of this thing. Like, the reason that I have the relationship with certain buyers or customers or
Mhm.
whatever it is because we get really human.
And prior to that, were you more of like a perfectionist? Like, let me keep
Yeah,
it all.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, "Oh, things need to be perceived a certain way," so you wanna, like, kinda put them together. But I think the human, like, the human texture of it's, like, the best part, and just
Mm.
getting to know these people on a really personal level is so awesome, and just remembering that a business is really just it's the people behind it, and spending time with those people is my favorite thing. So my favorite part of everything that I do is my team people, but also, like, all these new people that I get to meet and the story that I get to tell over and over again, and you think you'd get exhausted of it, but I kinda
Well, that
don't.
means it's an authentic story
Yeah,
because 'cause you're
it's
not
my
singing a
life.
fake song.
Right,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I kinda love it. So that's one thing. Then on working with your spouse, it's so funny. I remember when we were pitching investors really early on, and someone was like, "I just don't invest in couples." I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah,
And I was like, "Don't worry, it's not our first go around at yelling at each other. We've done this before."
yeah.
But I think you identify what you're really good at, and you kinda that person has to, like, take the lead in that, and the spouse has to give them autonomy to do so, like, "This is my lane, don't step in it. I'm really good," for example, my brain's a math brain, Ian's is a writing brain. So whatever side of the brain that lands on, like, that is what I'm good at, let me do my job, and similarly there, like, I'll probably question him more than he questions me, but the point is I let him like, we let each other do, what it is, and then I think other than that, this is kind of our life. I think so many people ask us, like, "Well, how do you shut it off?" And you're like,
Yeah, that was gonna be my next
you
question.
don't, like,
Yeah,
you can't."
yeah.
And there are times where I feel some guilt where my kids are like, "Mom, can you get off your phone?" And I'm like, Do you wanna go to college? So there's that. And there's some days where I'm like, the best part of being an entrepreneur is that, like, I could choose to
Is the
say,
freedom.
yeah, I could choose to be like, "It's 2 p.m. on a Friday, and I'm gonna hang out with my kid, and these emails will get tended to probably at 10 o'clock at night."
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's not I think the other part I love too is my kids get to see me do something with so much heart and passion, and they get to see me work, and they get to see me work hard, and I think it's exciting and, inspiring, and I get to now watch it in my kids and how they like, what their output is in certain things. My oldest one is obsessed with basketball, like, he lives, breathes he thinks he's in the NBA, you couldn't tell him he's not, and it's incredible, and I'll catch him just, like, going outside just to, like, shoot by himself or, like, work on drills, and seeing that self-starter in him and seeing that he loves something so much and has this, like, innate need to work on it and by himself is the
Mm.
coolest thing.
Well, you probably
Um,
got that from just observing you guys.
because he's like, "Oh, great. The math makes sense. It's input hard work with some passion and some love, and the success comes out on the other
Mm.
side." And so I think he looks at it similarly where he's like, "Great. Are we all natural born hoopers? Probably not. There's, like, a couple of us in the world that could do it, but he's not one of those." And so I saw over time that he was just, like, working on it, and he's gotten really good. And it's really cool to see that, like, just hard work and love for what he's doing
Yeah.
and, like, seeing it come out alive on the court.
You mentioned something about, guilt, and I think I know it was a joke saying the college thing, but do you have tools to balance that in terms of for other people, I guess, not even for yourself?
Yeah.
What's your advice on balancing the catching yourself, "Oh, shit, I've kinda been a workaholic this week," and I know a lot of entrepreneurs can relate, and then all of a sudden being like, "Shit, I gotta, like."
There's no turn off. Like, I wish
Yeah.
it's not even like, "Oh, it's 50-50 or 60-40." No, it's like
It's a
100 and a
sacrifice. So it's a
100.
sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. But it's not just, like, all 100% work all the time. Like, sometimes there are the moments where I'm like, "Great, I think this can be a quiet week. Let me take the kids away."
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of that too, but the cool part is we also work out of our house, and so want our kids to, like, see us. So even if they're not engaging with us in that moment, they're kinda next to us, and they're just, like, they're comforted by our presence, and so we're really just, like, active in their lives, and there are moments when they're at their basketball games, for example, and I'll have someone call me that I need to, like, deal with on the work side. I'll make sure to find, like, the moments where, "Okay, he's not playing, I have 10 seconds to do this email,"
Yeah. You
um,
become very resourceful.
and you figure it out. It's a complete like, you figure it out, you'll burn your hand a few times, and then you'll get there.
Do you think there's a point, given your ten people,
Yeah.
a point where you have an inflection point where you can start scaling, delegating more, or what's the next a couple of years look like?
Yeah, we're starting to do that, like, as
Yeah.
we continue to grow and I continue to delegate. I think no one is ever gonna have the heart and passion for the business that I'll have, so, like, for me, it's personally important to
Yeah.
keep involved in a lot of these things, but I trust my team, I have a great team, and so but it's so funny because the minute you delegate something, something else comes up that's a new
Yeah.
skill that you
And
need
now
to
it's
take over,
a
and you're
new
like,
thing that you
"Great,
have
a
to
new
take
thing I
on.
need to do," so it's
How do you guys think about scaling the next couple of years? Where does Three Wishes go from here?
hopefully every pantry in the United States, but this year as we
Well, that's
launched
the vision, right?
yeah,
It's like you wanna be
you
everywhere.
wanna be a
'Cause
household
I love the
brand.
Erewhon to Walmart connection. It's not a lot of brands can bridge, I think, both, at least without fundamentally changing,
Right,
like, their product or
right.
price point or whatever.
Yeah, so that's kind of for us, I think, this year. So so every year kind of before this, marketing was so on the back burner, right? As marketers ourselves, we're like, "Great, we have to, like, just make sure we're producing enough and, like, building the brand enough and just, like,
Focus on the
opening the right
product.
doors and focus
Yeah.
on the product." And I kinda let that do its thing, and this year's the first year where we're like, "Alright, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do that's, like, fun to get this out there in a way that hopefully I could shift some of my focus away from operating to, like, now
Putting it out
building and
there.
yeah, and putting it out there." So that's gonna be an interesting one to see
Is that
what we put out.
is that a inflection point where you have to just naturally raise more money
No,
to go and do that?
no, I
Or
think
you're just efficient with what
you
you
just have
have?
to be efficient with what you have.
Yeah.
I'm a super old school so my dad I'll never forget this. So I went shopping with a girlfriend of mine in high school, and this before, like, I had a credit card and anything to my name, and she happened to have a credit card. And we went to the store, and she was buying a pair of shoes. She's like, "Margaret, you should really get these shoes." I'm like, "I can't, like, I don't have money to get them." and they were like knockoff Tory Burch dupes. I'll never forget them for as long as I live. And she was like, "Don't worry, like I'll pay for them. I'll put them on my card, and when we see your parents later, they'll give you the money for it
Yeah.
and you'll pay me back." And I was like, "Of course, yeah, easy done." And so
Forget
we go by 'em, I come home, I'm like, "Dad, look what I got." And he's like, "Where how did you pay for them?" And I'm like, "Oh, I borrowed money. Like, can you pay her back?" And he, like, flipped out on both of us, and he was like, "Don't ever let her borrow money again, and, like, if you don't have the money, you can't buy it, and that's the control that you have to exercise, like, if there's
mm,
nothing to spend, don't spend it." It's like he hates the idea of credit cards. He's such, like, a cash
yeah,
mentality type of guy, and I think part of that was, like, so not only was that a fun traumatic moment, but it was a good moment for me to be like, "If you don't have it and you didn't earn it, don't spend it." So, if you have the money to spend on that, so for me, I look at it like that vending machine, if I'm putting a buck in, what is it returning for me? And really identifying those things and doubling down on avenues that are gonna continue to build for the business and not just burn cash.
yeah. It's a great thesis to have. I mean, so many brands, even in our space, have raised a shit ton of money, blew it on marketing.
Completely.
I won't mention names, even in the very similar space to you that have done that, and that doesn't make up for a bad product, or it doesn't make up for the fundamentals in the business that you really need to build correctly to make sure it can actually sustain another decade. I mean, 8 years is a long time. And the ones that, yeah, we've talked about this on another show too. You build it in a year or two, it's probably going to be as quick to falter because it's not built on anything like secure in terms of
Yeah.
foundation.
And for us, this is we kind of so the name Three Wishes, it's like actually a fun story of how we got
Yeah.
there. We had another name, and as you figure out and, like, we went on USPTO, there was nobody else in our category, we're like, "Great, no issue." We filed a name, we get rejected on this other name, and we're sitting there and we're like, "Oh my god, we're marketers, we can't even come up with another what's wrong? Is the world burning? Like, what's happening?" And so we lived back then, we lived in the city, we lived a couple blocks from Central Park, we got married at the Central Park Boathouse, and it was March 15th, I'll never forget it, and we walk over to the boathouse. I'm like, "Ian, I need a glass of wine. We need to figure this out. What are we gonna do about this name?" Because apparently, if you are like kind of in the grocery store, you're probably not gonna find two of the same trademark name. Because in theory, even if it was Coffee Company X, might want to do a cereal and they might want to use that name. So like there was like a whole thing on why the name that we had originally didn't work. And in hindsight, it wasn't even that great. And so we're sitting at the boathouse and I'm scrolling on my own Instagram for inspiration. Not sure why, like on my own page. Very odd, but here we are.
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling down, and when I was pregnant with Ellis, I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant. I was super superstitious about it, and I also thought I was gonna be like one of those, like, little wafy girls that, like, you can never tell she was pregnant. No. My doorman knew in, like, 4 weeks. He was like, "Oh, twins?" I was like, "That is so offensive. No, thank you." And so when I had Ellis, there was a photo of a necklace that said the word "wish" on it and his little hand, and the hashtag I used because we used hashtags back then was 3 wishes because it was now the
Mm,
3 of us.
yeah.
And so I'm sitting and I'm scrolling and I stop on that photo and I see the hashtag and I look up at Ian and I'm like, 3 wishes? Because we had 3 claims. It was the 3 of us. And he was like, "Margaret, there is no shot that this is available."
Yeah.
Like, so he's like, "All right, trademark, whatever." And he's like, "No, it's available." The way we ran home, sprint home, stroller and all, like, we're just hauling to get home and just register for it, and it worked out. So for us, it felt like it was in the stars. Like, of course, we sat outside of our wedding venue, and all of a sudden, the name that was in a hashtag, that was on the
Yeah.
like, came to be.
Yeah.
And so for me, looking I feel such a weight with that of, like, this isn't just, like, a one and done, like, raise, sell, die, like, and then never see it again, do another business. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is, like this
Like,
is
you
it. This
wanna
is,
build a
like
legacy
I
with
wanna
this. I
build
mean, it is your
legacy, like, I
family
wanna
name.
see this forever. I don't wanna see this ever go away, whether we continue to run it for the rest of time, which is fine, whether we decide to sell it, which is whatever that is, like, and that'll, happen at some point in time. All I wanna know is that this brand lives in the way that we intended for it to live
Mm,
and just, like, continues. And so building it in a stable, kind of methodical way, I think is really
I love
important.
that, and it probably gives consumers more confidence, just to be like, "Wow,
100%.
we can really rely on these founders and teams to build our kids amazing
'Cause
products."
so many people are like, "So what's your end goal?" I'm like, To make good food." Like, "What's your end goal?" Like,
Yeah.
that's a weird question.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people like, "Yeah, it's like a get rich" if
Like an
I
exit, strategic exit, whatever.
no, that's, like, not it at all,
What
so
so I think you said something inspiring about the whole credit line situation, which I feel like a ton of founders are in that place. that may not have the experience that you guys do, how do you think about efficient marketing spending? Like, are there certain levers to pull when you're not looking at like, let's get the billboard or let's get an awesome celebrity collab going
Yeah.
because that costs millions of dollars, right? And
Yeah.
so how do you outside of the pure play, I don't know, media buying and, tactics that anyone can pull, how other like, are there other unique
I think they're
sort
just
of
like appropriate moments. So I think in certain like in the maturity stage of certain brands, certain things make sense. And so I think sometimes when really young brands, these like humongous outlandish things, you're just like, why? Like, is your distribution justifying you doing a billboard or you doing connected TV or whatever thing you're doing in that moment? So I think that's like a big part of it. And just there's more places to spend money than there is money.
yeah.
So I think just like figuring out what resonates with your consumers and like where they're looking to discover this and what that messaging is. Like, I just it's not just like a go and just like spray
Like,
and
you guys did a great
pray.
job on, like, Instacart, I think it was, recently. I think I was on Instacart recently, and I
Yeah.
almost you weren't top of mind for that badge because I was
Love
looking at,
that,
like,
thank you.
I was
Yeah.
looking at, like,
If you were
groceries.
searching cereal and I wasn't in your cart.
No, 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 it wasn't even on the cereal
Yeah.
bo it was I think I was just scrolling because my wife was getting home from a trip, and I wanted to stock the fridge with, like,
Oh
produce,
my god, good husband.
and I'm
Love
trying.
that.
See, that's why I can do these
Yeah,
trips 'cause I
yeah.
can
You earned your
yeah,
keep with
I earned my
Instacart.
keep. Um,
She almost thought you even went shopping for a
yeah,
second.
exactly. So I'm scrolling, and it was just, like, this amazing video that popped up, but I feel like that's what you mean by be where the customer is looking,
Yeah,
'cause it was in my natural, open to discovery, open to adding things into the cart. That's the framework I was in,
yeah.
and I feel like you attacked right there.
Well, you I think so a big part of it is I think about my like, I am my consumer,
Yeah.
right?
You think about
Where am I
what do you do?
shopping? Where do I wanna engage with this?
Absolutely.
How do I wanna be delivered the message? And so a big part for me and that was part of the strategy when everyone was like, "Oh, D2C," and I'm like, "No, brick and mortar." And part of me was like, I have a little kid. I know that if he's hungry, he's not hungry in 4 to 6 business days. He's hungry today. I
Yeah.
wanna go to the store today. I wanna buy it now. And I think similar to thinking about that behavior, like when I was just a fresh mom and I was scared to like go out with him and go on these like long expeditions because what if he cries? What if he wakes up? I did so much Fresh Direct and like Instacart and
Yeah.
whatever, whatever the delivery service was in that
Yep.
moment. And so that was a similar thing of like, I know that eyeball is there, capture the eyeball, just go
Yeah.
for it. And so that obviously is in that part of the funnel where you're trying to grab them, convert them and
Media
go.
buying.
But
Yeah.
we also know for us, our return customer rate's so high that if I can, like, get them and convert them on an Instacart, it's just gonna be something they throw in the cart all the time. And so that for me is, like, an obvious, like, "Great, put the money in that channel and let it go and continue to watch it return," but also monitor it because if you're
Mm.
seeing that you're continuing to spend and you've kinda plateaued and you're not seeing that return anymore, put it elsewhere. Like, max out the
Yeah.
platform.
How important is community for your brand?
Huge. So on the social side for us, so we just recently, probably like 9 months, a year ago, just brought on someone to do all of the, like, partnership and influencer,
Yeah.
and before that, we didn't pay a single influencer before that. Because for
Wow.
me, I was like, there is no better message in the world than someone going, "I bought this at Whole Foods," or whatever store. "I bought this, and they're not paying me, and it's so good, and I need to tell you."
Oh, it's the
I'm
best.
buying
It's
it
word of
in
mouth. Yeah.
seconds. I have 4 of them in my bag already, like,
Yeah.
and that's that word of mouth is so powerful, so for a very long time, we only did that, and having this, like, really trusted voice tell you like, someone you follow, and whether it was a small kinda, like,
Micro or
nano or
macro, doesn't
yeah,
matter. Yeah.
doesn't matter. So, like, that endorsement is so important, and so for a long time, we kinda only went off of that, and now you started to bring in some of these, like, influencers and started to pay them, and the beauty there is, like, there are so many creators, finding a creator that's super passionate about your brand and will tell the story in a way that doesn't feel like, "Hey, so today I was eating hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, hashtag 3 wishes," like, that's never how I want it to feel, and so
Yeah.
we just make sure we vet everybody and that it's gonna return, and so
Yeah.
sometimes we'll place bets on, like, "I don't know if that one might let's try it." But for the most part, we kinda go with people that we know are, like, the perfect fit, and that's it.
I always think about, like, local movements too. So we recently moved to Kansas City for a couple years, to get more support with our in-laws and all that, as we have our second one. But the huge
I did not know that live update.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to unpack that.
Yeah, yeah, so I went from Manhattan Beach and, the land of Erewhon and LA and health and
Wow.
wellness to Kansas City, which has been really an interesting, like, psychological
Good
experiment to
airport.
great airport, yeah, it's
Yeah.
new. Um, we were just talking about how it's really funny and at the same time kinda like, fuck, when you it's my son goes to school now and will tell people that their food has seed oils in it.
I love that.
And
That's
and,
so
like,
LA.
he has 3 wishes. His favorite one's cinnamon, like, truly, I'm not making this up because 'cause we're having this conversation,
My
but
king.
he
Love
literally
him.
he calls cereal 3 wishes, which is interesting, right, also,
Love
because like,
that. Okay.
that's how you know you've
Okay.
integrated, like, the brand.
Yeah.
Um, and I always think about it when he comes home, he's like, "Yeah, I told my friend, like, he had, like, whatever, Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, like, you shouldn't eat those because they have seed oils." And, uh, and he's like, "I have 3 wishes," or whatever, and it was the cutest thing ever, but it also sparked a
How did I not get a video? That's what
I
I
know,
wanna
I told
know.
my wife before he came on to send me something with him on it because
So
he's
good.
so adorable with it, but it sparked
Kids are
this
the real influencer, by the
that's
way.
what I'm
They're out there
saying.
whispering on the playground. They're like, "Jack, those are not good, my
Yeah.
boy."
No, deadass, like,
And then they come home, they're like, "Yo, mom, you know what I heard on the playground
yeah,
today? It's 3 wishes."
yeah,
She's
truly.
running.
But that's like,
Yeah,
I know my wife would be like, "Oh, if Sai really brought something home that he was interested in, she would explore it."
yeah.
And but that's what I mean. So how do you think about localized movements like that? Like, my entire neighborhood probably does, and they're all, well off, they can all afford to make the switch,
Yeah.
but they're just not educated, or maybe they're not being hit. How do you guys think about sampling or, like, local movements, or is it just too far off right now to think
Yeah,
about
I
that,
think
or
the truth for me is, like, doing sampling at scale in an efficient way feels like it's almost unless it's Costco
I
where
was
your
just
foot
gonna say
traffic, which
unless
obviously every
yeah,
time we've done a Costco rotation, take my money, sample away, like, love it.
yeah.
So efficient, your return is so there. But if you think about, whether it's a Whole Foods or a Target or whatever retailer, it's super rare that you're gonna have, like, a line out the door or, like, that much foot traffic to justify the cost of that one
Also, I hate to
activation.
say it, but, like, even at a Target, Walmart, I've seen some sampling displays where the guy's just on his phone, like,
Right.
down. It's not engaged. It's not the
Correct.
grandma at Costco
No.
that knows the back of the
Eileen is
box.
invested,
Yeah.
she wants you to
Yeah.
know. But no, it's exactly that, and so you have people, 1, they're not really educated about the brand, so when someone asks a question, a customer, like,
Yeah,
which
it's not a
naturally, it's a new
Narrowlon.
brand, they have no idea. And so, unless you had your own dream team of, like, 1,000 people that you're putting out there to, just, like,
It's not
blitz in the
cost effective.
streets, it's never cost effective, and so for me, I look at each one of those samplings, I'm like, "I'd rather give that product away for free because 'cause I'll be able to give away, let's say 100 boxes for that 1 or 2
Also,
samplings."
where they can be the word of mouth
Right. So,
saying,
like,
"Try
I
this," or
rather send to more nanos or, like, people with 1,000 followers in those local markets, like, okay, let me find a ton
"Send
of
it to my son.
Kansas, right, or
We'll take
Kansas
him."
City moms
Yeah.
that are gonna, by the way, in a super genuine way, like, tell their friends, like, "Oh my god, I made this for Billy, and he was so excited to eat it. I'm sure your kid's gonna love it." And that for me is gonna do more than any sampling will ever do in
Mhm.
his lifetime. So from it's that same vending machine thought of, like, "I'm putting this buck in, what is it spitting out?" And so if I spend a couple $100 and all I get's 2 to 3 sales because there was the store was dead because it rained outside and nobody went to the shop, like, to the mall to buy whatever,
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yeah.
So, that's how I think about it. But Costco all day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet most of these, after you get the word of mouth, they become lifelong customer, at least for a period of time.
Yeah. But you know what else is interesting? And this goes back to, like, do the behavior that's native to that area. Costco is, I mean, we call it store d'oeuvres. Like, you go there, you're eating, you're walking around. That's Costco
Servings.
culture.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Target, I think part of, like, these other retailers, you're not used to seeing it there that frequently, and I think there's also something in this post-COVID era that you're
It's not
just like,
authentic to them.
right, it's not, but there's also something in, like, I don't know if I'm, like, walking around taking open cups from people, everyone's, like, sneezing around, no one's washing their hands, I'm
Yeah.
good, and, like,
It's funny how at Costco it's okay though.
oh, completely,
Like, you don't even think
completely.
twice, you'll just grab it.
Lining up,
Yeah.
like, people are standing there with their shopping carts idling, everyone's got all day
Yeah.
apparently to try
And then they
pizza
hover for
rolls.
seconds and thirds. I always
Yeah.
see those folks
Oh,
just
it's so good, it's
over
hors
and around.
d'oeuvres. So, but yeah.
What type of other expert advice can we lean on you for in terms of brand building and founders that are just getting started in what seems like a way more overwhelming space, given you started 10 years ago when there was one disruptive brand for every 9 conglomerates.
Mhm.
And I think that's slow. I think we've hit the point where it's the opposite. I mean, even in your space, you've probably seen 5, 6, 7 pop up that weren't there a few years ago.
Oh, and there are plenty that have come and go, right?
Yeah.
And I think
How
we're
do you
all
yeah, how do
we're
you keep your blinders on, and how do you
they're never off. The blinders are permanently fastened. So,
Yeah,
like, I know what I've gotta do, and I'm just gonna keep doing it, and every year, we just, like, figure out what is the not what is the thing that you gotta do that year, because it's, like, it's just a bigger business, a bigger opportunity. How do you tackle it in a way that's efficient and just, like, feels like your brand?
yeah,
And I don't know, that's kinda what we do, but I think there are so many things as an entrepreneur that, like, make me who I am, um, and so much of my entrepreneurial spirit that I've, like, just pumped into my kids, and I think okay, so a thing we do internally is we call it FISSY, F it, ship it, and, like, sometimes, like,
F it,
fuck it,
ship it.
ship
Okay,
it.
yeah,
Fuck it, ship it, just do
yeah,
it. And I think for us, we look at things of, like, sometimes everyone, like, loves to mind F so many things, right? They're like, "Oh, like, I don't know if my product's ready," or,
like
like,
overanalyze,
everyone
overthink.
completely, everyone overanalyzes, and so much of it's just kinda like, "All right, sometimes you just gotta, like, do it. Just go. Just take the leap. Just take the jump. Go
Yeah,
for it." Um, and I think this, like, rebellious personality just suits entrepreneurial, like, it's entrepreneurship and just, like, an entrepreneurial spirit, and I think so many people are scared of things,
yeah.
and I'm not scared.
It well, first of all, it's a great trait to have, but secondly, I think you said something important. Like a lot of D2C founders, I think they're so used to you put a brand up on your website. If it gets shit on or if the product sucks for some reason
Yeah,
because you miss some point of quality control, you can take it down, and the next day you can iterate and put it up again.
right.
Like, once you move into retail, you can't do that, right? So, like, I think a lot of people overthink the
Yeah,
packaging.
we don't fuck it, ship it product,
Yes, yeah,
but
yeah.
everything else but no,
But even
totally.
you could iterate on you could be like, "I'm not ready. The packaging's not ready. The
100%.
call outs aren't ready. Now we're gonna overthink the call outs or the way the cereal looks
But you know what
on the
else is
package."
interesting? I think customers, or just consumers in general, even just the way you see brands speak and behave on social became because I used to think of it in the era of, like, everything was high gloss and super, like, styled and photographed. Everybody loves this, like, really authentic, just, like, TikTok style, like, you're just
Yeah,
grungy walking in the street, just, like, phone to your face, and I think that really authentic voice, whether it's what your email looks like or feels like, I think it's so okay. So this casual nature is so much more normal now than it was years before, and so I think part of
where it had
that
to be
just, like
so, like, Mad Men
right.
era,
You're
perfect
like,
perfect
"Ugh,
ad.
do we, like, version 1W of this email?" Like, 1B
Yeah.
was fine.
I just see a visual of, like, the consulting company coming in with, like, 6 different iterations that are barely different.
Just do it.
Yeah,
Just go.
just go.
Just go.
What other brands inspire you? Like, outside of CPG too, that you feel like you can draw inspiration from when you think about 3 Wishes or brand building?
That's a good question. I mean, like, my mind immediately goes to luxury because there's
Which is
so many of
fine.
these luxury, like,
Yeah.
brands that just
Who's doing
keep
it
the
right?
cachets. I mean, everybody and their mama's trying to buy a Birkin right now, right? So you look at brands like Hermes that I'm like, "Wow, they found a way to make people feel like they can't afford a $15,000 bag," right? Like, I think it's so fascinating. They kept their heritage and, like, who they are as a brand so pure, and you have all these people that want it, and it's scarce, but all like, it's just, like, this really weird balance of how they've been able to do all of these things all at once and not feel like some of these other fashion houses, like a Gucci that, like, is cool for a season. They have this, like, really authentic heritage, and it just feels I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
I think the way that they create hype and scarcity around something that might not even be that hype or scarce,
Yeah.
like, it just
It's gonna be like your cotton candy drop.
that's it. Everybody's doing it. It's the
You're
new
selling it on the
Birkin.
aftermarket. It's limited supply.
And it's just like, I think they've conditioned consumers to think and feel a certain way, and I look at that and I'm like, "That is
It's a
terrifying," but
master class in brand
it's
building though, for
brilliant,
sure.
brilliant. Like, you were able to take something that feels so unapproachable, and people are, like, willing to do whatever it takes to, like, buy and get these things, and I think that's just, like, a really interesting study of consumer.
Yeah. Is there any other brands that come to mind?
Yeah, one that's not that absurd. You know, like, all the things that I use in my everyday life, I think are brands I'm always, like,
Yeah.
fascinated and obsessed with, and, um,
Beauty, all that. Yeah.
beauty, I'm, like, not. I could care less about a lot of the beauty brands, I think, obviously, because I interact with food so much in my, like, kind of professional life, I'm always fascinated by all the other peers in the space that have done a great job and become kind of staples like the Sietes, right?
CATs, yeah,
Where you're like, "Oh, it feels still so authentic and like someone's well made it, but it's also an enormous brand," right? And I think they've done a beautiful job
yeah.
with that.
That's an
Um,
incredible story. We just
also,
recently bought a company called Presence Marketing that does all natural grocery, and
yeah,
so they had built Siete, and I was just learning, but it's so awesome what they've done.
yeah, they're a great
And
brand.
true and tried and slow, steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. I feel like
And
that's how
that's
they
how
were
I
built.
feel, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we try to emulate a similar, like, slow and we're in no rush here.
Yeah. And that's I mean, to your point of relating to Hermes, I know it's a very different stratosphere,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
than cereal, but it's still that family legacy that's been so true and tried.
I
And
would think
so,
for family brands.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. Okay. So Hermes, Siete,
Yeah, those are
you,
2 good ones, 2 very different things,
where does
but
Ian source his inspiration from? I feel like he's always also thinking outside of the
I mean,
box.
Ian talks to a billion people a day, like, there's not a moment this man's not pacing on a phone call. And I think as he has conversation with and it's not just, like, one type of person that he's always on with. He is so fascinated by all people that he'll talk to anybody. And I think that's his source of inspiration. Like, he'll hear someone talk about something, and he's
That's
like, "Oh, that's
very similar
interesting.
to
Tell me
me.
more." Right? And so
Yeah.
he digs deep on things and loves to understand and
And then he
learn.
connects the dots in his head.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, we're just on whatever Ian adventure that we're on, but it's
And what
fun.
was it you guys had a to drop it back to that, you guys were running an ad agency,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah, and
was
Ian still has the creative
big,
agency. Big I'd Wish.
Big I'd
Everything's got
Wish.
a wish in it.
Yeah, 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 and he's still running it.
Yeah.
And you guys are also focused on consumer brand building advertising?
Yeah. And so for us, I think where the agency experience was great, our clients were kind of I don't want to say they're are obviously they're mentors in a way, but watching them build their brand so closely to whatever marketing we were doing for them at the time, we watched them and their strategy as operators. And I think so much of, I would see what worked for them or what failed for them. And I would
Yeah.
kind of like throw it in the back of my brain of like, oh, that was an interesting thing they did. They're really smart. Or, oh, interesting. Watch out. Don't do that. And so I think that that was helpful for us to kind of have that see and experience it the way that we did.
Yeah. And when you think about that advertising too, something else that came up, which may have been an obvious that you guys have already thought through, but school and food services, as you think about marketing towards them, is there an opportunity to really I don't know that space that well, but to me, I'm like, "Hey,
That's a
if
really hard one to break through because anything that involves
is it really
government.
politics? Is that
Yeah.
really is the
The other
barrier?"
problem, and this is like what's so upsetting about the school system too, is they're not trying to spend more and pay more for better and premium products. They're all about feeding the masses. And that's part of like when cereal was invented and when all of like food in the 50s and 60s, when it started to become just super processed food, it was about how do you feed a lot of people all at once
Yeah.
for like not a lot of money, right? And
Yep.
so that was a lot of that
Have you guys
processed food
tried
era.
to walk up to that door or
We've had some conversations, but it's also like right now our product's not really bulk packed. We're
Hmm.
packed for individuals, like boxes. But I
Yeah.
think, I mean, it's something I love and
I was
I
gonna say, if you wanna
wish.
create impact,
Oh, so passionate about it. I'm like, I need kidfluencers, honestly. Like,
I'm saying,
so
if it wasn't child labor, I'd to give
that's what
it
I'm
tell you to hire
saying.
my son.
No, it's fine. I use mine. But it's great. Like kids are really so powerful, and it would if I could squeeze and find my way in. If you know a way in, let me know. I am happy to be in
Yeah.
schools.
Well,
But I
I just saw
agree.
some news recently on, like, the Texas school change some I don't did you see that headline?
No,
It was something with policy, I think, Mark Hyman posted it around I don't know what it
love
was,
Mark
I'll
Hyman.
send it to you later,
Yeah,
but
great.
I think they're making the waves now more locally.
I think
Um,
it was only time that it would happen. So I'm
yeah,
glad that that moment's happening, and it should be good for all of us better for you brands.
yeah. Are there any other things that you feel like you wish you knew when you were starting that you've learned now or you changed your mind on now?
Hmm. No, because I think all those, like, little learnings and lashings and
Kinda
mistakes,
have to
and
go through the
you have to. Like,
experiences.
nobody goes through it just, like, without
Yeah,
any boo-boos. That's part of the process is to figure out what doesn't work and really learn a lesson, and I think the real learning is not to do that same thing again, and know how to watch out for things now
yeah.
and just, I
It's
don't know,
interesting,
get
I feel like
smarter.
that's becoming more it used to be so much more of like, "Here's my 3 pieces of advice," and more and more, I think in today's age, it's like just supporting them going and experiencing it themselves and just saying, "Hey, I'll be here if you need to call me."
There's no
Or like,
playbook, I think, is what
yeah,
people are forgetting, like, whatever was popular in the playbook 6 months ago is outdated and no longer the
that's
playbook
the crazy
today.
part. It's moving so quickly.
So fast.
Like, a year ago, people were saying, "Hey, make like X amount of accounts or have a creator kind of be the face of your brand." And now people are like, "No, actually have like 60 accounts and try all of them and
And
try."
by the way, one thing might work for someone where it's like you have one person and that's the
Yeah.
face and it hits and it goes, and sometimes it's just like there is no right way to do
Well, you
any
have a
of
lot of
these things.
self-proclaimed gurus now
Oh, yeah.
online
Yeah.
that try to tell you that it is the right
Yeah.
way. Even in the D2C community, I try to stay away from 'em. I'm not on all the D2C forums, but there is so much of that going on.
Yeah, they're like, come to my mastermind on how I took my brand from 0 to 5,000 this year," and
Yeah.
you're like, "Great.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a real pro." N no shade to you mastermind pros out there. Alright.
I always like to ask the question as well around this theme of magnetism. I feel like you and Ian have obviously taken the traits of being a magnet, like growing slow and steady, allowing people to be attracted to your product based on the quality of the product, the authenticity versus it being, cereal shoved down someone's mouth and saying, like, buy our product like it's the
Yeah.
best, go do it. Um, as you think about the traits of magnetism, what are the things that you're drawn to in people or brands that, even some of the ones you've mentioned, Siete, Hermes, you clearly, outside of just it being family brands, what are those characteristics and traits? And it could be for other people in your life too, right? Not just brands, like your friends, relationships. What are the things that you're drawn to and what are those characteristics?
I think really self-aware people. I think people that are comfortable in who they are. I think it's really tough to be around insecure people. They're, like, just, like, seeking and reaching for things, and so I think everyone's growth journey, you figure out, like, who you are over time, and that's something that I've really, like, pushed on my kids is them being confident and me reminding them that they're the greatest thing
Mm,
since sliced bread always, and I really love people that are just comfortable with themselves, even if that's not, like even if I don't agree with how they're approaching something, but if you're just, like, so good and comfortable with it, I kinda love it, and so
yeah,
just, like, letting everyone be themselves and that for me, I think is so important because the people that are try hard, that I can't do. I can't be around
turns you
people
off.
that drives me nuts.
Yeah. So it's like more of the authentic
Just like
individuals who are being
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, just, like, down to be you, down to, like, hang, down to be in a pair of sweatpants and not care what someone else thinks about you, like, because I could truly care less what someone else thinks about me,
Were
and,
you always that way?
no,
So
no.
what were some of the mantras or lessons that helped you become that?
I think you encounter enough people in life and enough people, like, disappoint you or hurt you or whatever, upset you, and you learn to cut out those people that aren't, like I don't want to say serving you well because that's not, like, the right way to necessarily look at it, but
Yeah.
I think in relationships, there has to be something that you learn from each other, otherwise, why like, whether it's a personal, like, friendship relationship or, like,
Mhm.
a love relationship, there has to be something in which you both kind of help each other grow, whether it's, like, you're being honest with the person and you're helping them identify something they didn't see before, but just, like, kind of just, like, hanging out and not ascending together is not it for me, and I
Yeah.
think people that I gravitate towards, like, not that there's something for them to do for me, but it's more of just, like, they support me wholeheartedly, and it's not, like, fake and weird, it's they're just there to cheer me on and be a good friend and be a sounding board, and then f I don't know, whatever I do for them in return, like, whether it's just, like, a boost of confidence or telling them they're shit in their teeth and, like, being that friend, I think is so important, and so
Yeah.
just people that are just unfiltered and unapologetically themselves, or that's my person,
Yeah.
like, when you're just, like, comfortable with who you are, it's the best.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm on a journey doing that too. It's very chameleon for many years because in
It's
sales you have to.
liberating.
Yeah, it is. It really is because then you just find your lane and you can just speak your truth.
But you attract more people that way, by the way. Like, that's what I found is, like, me
Mm,
when I'm just my truest self. Because I think as you, like, date in New York when you're in your early 20s, and I got married young, but you, like, meet these people and you kinda, like, wanna impress them, and, like, if you really like the guy more than he likes you, and you're, like you try to craft yourself into the person you think they're gonna like,
yeah.
but the truth is, like, the most attractive person of all was the one that just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. Because
That's the
then
one that always gets the guy, by the way.
yeah, well, the funny part is I think you mentioned something really important, and whether you're a brand or a person, it applies to both. Because some brands wear a mask for a while to try to be something for their consumer until they realize, "Holy shit, it's a tiring I think you mentioned it earlier, which was really critical, like, you don't get tired of telling this story 8 years later because it is so true to you, and if you were that person who's trying to impress a guy, after 8 years, you're gonna be tired of being that fake person,
Right. But it also, like,
right?
it shows itself a lot faster than people realize, and so many people see through a lot of this too.
Yeah.
So, anytime I meet someone where I'm like, "Oh, I can't do it. I can't be friends with them.
Yeah.
Drive me nuts." But I think people that are just, like, themselves, I'm like, "Alright, I respect
Yeah,
her. Even if I don't agree with her, I respect her." And I think respect is a big thing for me too, so,
yeah,
yeah.
and I had to it's so funny, we were talking about trade shows earlier, but, like, 10 years ago, I used to have to hit part of my role was to hit trade shows, and I was doing the sales gig, and I would have to go be someone for every boo and it was exhausting. And that was the whole thesis of this podcast too, is like, how can you just the more you're yourself, the more you can attract to you, inherently.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys have really built that into the brand, which is also inspiring to see because a lot of people forget that step.
And I never wanted to be like, "Here at Wish Farms, we promise to bring,"
Yeah,
like, that's not
one
who
of those
we are.
commercials with
Right,
you
like, that's
on a
not
farm.
who we are, and, like, we want you to know that, like, we're a fun and kinda crazy family, and we just do things, just do them sometimes, and, like, we write things on the bottom of the box because why not?
Yeah,
And I don't know, that for me is, like, a really fun and important part, and one thing we don't do, but I hope we do more of, slash, it's really probably on me, is incorporating my family into more of the story and
you guys
sharing
should.
it. I know, and our kids are so cool. They're, like, so much cooler than we are, and they're so fun, and I actually think the world would love them. I just, like, don't have the energy in my soul some days to be like, "Alright, camera on, let's do it." Like, I'm
Yeah,
I'm more of just
it's
like,
a lot.
"Ian, get out of my face, please, thank you."
Yeah,
So I think it is a lot. And the kids love it, by the way, because
yeah.
they watch
You've
so
made it
much
fun
You
for them.
but they also
Yeah.
watch so much YouTube that, like, they're just waiting that camera turns on, they're like, "Don't forget to subscribe and save," and I'm like, "What are they subscribing and saving? Unless it's on Amazon, Ellis, there's
Yeah,
nothing else to subscribe and save over here," whatever
yeah. Are they
whatever I
watching, like, Mr. Beast and all that stuff?
what they're watching
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And by the way, you just see the funniest things. They'll spit some, like, data to you at some point, you're like, "Where'd you learn that?" And they're like, "YouTube, mom." I'm like, "Okay."
My son talks to Alexa or Siri all day because he just doesn't like, that's his Google.
Yeah.
He'll just say shit in the kitchen waiting, and I'm like, "You're asking me?" He's like, "No, no, no, not you. I'm asking Alexa, like, she's smarter than you."
Do you look like Alexa? I
Yeah.
don't think you look like Alexa,
So
dad.
it's so
No, it's
funny.
great, but
Yeah,
so I am hoping to use my family in our story a little bit more because it's kinda like my favorite part of the whole thing, so
yeah. And I don't wanna blanket it, but I feel like that as it's not inauthentic by saying this, but, like, as a marketing strategy, I think that is more
I
wholesome and
know,
more relatable.
I know.
Like, I think, like, Ballerina Farms is doing it. I forgot what I think it's called Ballerina
Yeah,
Farms.
but hers was, like, her life and her story before it was her product,
That's fair.
right? So she was, like,
Yeah.
creator, influencer
And then
first,
they
and
made the
then ended
products.
the product.
Yeah.
But we just have so much random story to tell, like, I did the craziest thing this weekend, and I don't know what, like, I I think I have enough content to maybe stitch it together. Okay, I just have to tell a story because it was so funny, and it was just made me laugh. Okay, so Ian goes on a once a year boys golf trip
Yep.
that I give him grief for literally every year. Like, every year I make it, like, the biggest deal, like, I'm changing the locks on the
You
door if
dick.
you go, like, it's whatever, end all be all of all things, and this year he went on his trip, and it was this past weekend, and so fr Friday night, I'm sitting, and my little one looks at me, and he's like, "Mom, like, I want an animal." I'm like, "We have a dog, like, you're good." He's like, "No, I want a farm animal," and I was like, "Ian's not here, perfect, and you want a farm animal, perfect." So Saturday morning, we got up, and we we drove, like, an hour north to a Tractor Supply to buy chickens.
Oh my
We
god.
show up at Tractor Supply, the guy was like, there was the little cage in the center, no chickens. So my older one looks at me, he's like, "Mom, there are no chickens," like, devastated, about to cry, and I'm like, "I can figure this out, I
Yeah,
got you."
yeah.
So I go up to the guy, and I'm like, "Oh, what's the deal? Where are the chickens?" And he, like, laughed at me, like, "Lady, are you late to the game? Like, this is the toilet paper of
Yeah, 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 I
2020
was
in
gonna ask the
2025.
egg
Like, you can't just
shortage.
come off the street and buy a chicken, my lady." And I was like, "Okay, sir. Challenge accepted."
Yeah.
And so I get in my car, and, like, my kids are like, "Oh, we're never gonna get chicken." I'm like, "Shh, shut up, we got it." And literally find some other spot, like, 35 minutes north. I'm like, "Alright, we're trekking," but I called beforehand, they didn't pick up. I'm like, "We're gonna have to hope the universe has chickens for us kids," and I just, like, haul ass to this chicken store, and we get there, and there's a line. And I'm like, "What if they sell through and we don't get the chicken? Like, what's happening?" And we walk in, and I see the guy behind the desk. I overhear them speaking Russian. I happen to speak Russian. My kids don't speak it, like, it's not a muscle I ever use, and I was like, "Today's the day we're speaking Russian," and I turned to my kid, and I'm like, "Ellis, get over here in Russian," and he's like, "Mom, why are you talking to me in Russian? Like, I don't speak it," and I was like, "Shh,
Kick him.
shut up, like,
Like,
shh, we're getting these chickens, like, I'm getting these goddamn chickens with every resource in my body," and so, finally, like, our turn comes and, like, whatever, I, like, befriend these owners, and next thing you know, we're picking up chickens,
that's
and so we
amazing.
get these they're so cute. Oh my god, I'm obsessed, they're cute little chicks, they're teeny tiny, whatever. I'm like, "Ellis, I told you, we secured the bag, chickens are coming home."
Yeah.
So we get home, we have these chickens, and of course, while we're there, Ian
These are
FaceTimes
gonna be
us.
resourceful kids, by the way, when they grow up.
Oh, that's it.
Like,
That's the whole thing. So Ian FaceTimes me while we're in this chicken store, and I'm like, he can't find out because I need to surprise him when he comes home from this golf trip that the absurd thing I did this weekend while he was gone was buy
that's
chickens.
pretty absurd.
It was incredible, and I have a video of Ian's reaction, and so so all of a sudden, he's FaceTiming me, and I'm like, "I'm in the chicken store, what am I gonna do?" And I don't pick up, and we get in the car, we're so giddy, we have these chickens, I have to find my way home because like, they need to get warm under the lamp, so I call him back because it would be too sus if I didn't. So I call him back, and I'm like, "Hey, what do you want?" He's like, "I'm just calling to say good morning." I'm like, "I'm driving, so I can't kinda see you, so, like, I gotta go." And I was afraid that my younger one was gonna blurt out like, "Daddy, we want chickens."
Yeah. My son
So
would have definitely
so
done
I'm like
that.
I'm like, "Shh." And so my older one, he's like, we're locked in. He knows the storyline. Like we're telling dad we went shopping for something else. And we get home, we like put these chickens back. And every time Ian has FaceTimed us in the last 2 days, I'm like, oh, we got to go to a different room. I hope these things don't chirp at the same time. And like, obviously my younger one's like, Daddy, we got a surprise. And I'm like, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He needs a nap, honestly, Ian, and I gotta go. And so this morning, Ian comes off of a red eye. I'm tracking him to come home. He gets to the front door, and I'm like, "Stand right there," and I found, like, an eye mask, so I put it on him, and I walk him into the door, into the living room, and I think at this point, he could start to hear a little chirping noise, and he's like and he takes it off, and he's like, "Oh," and he loves them, he's obsessed with them now,
That's incredible.
but it was incredible, and that for me was like, that was a fissy, that was a "Fuck it ship, just go, just do it." Like,
Yeah.
don't think about it too much, and the chickens were the greatest decision of
So I might
2025 for
sound
me.
so uneducated, but how do you keep chickens in the home?
I got you. Okay. I've done a lot of research this weekend. The
Yeah.
entire thing was just chicken research. And
They're indoor chickens?
okay, wait, we'll get there. I also have to show you a picture. They're silkies, which are a rare breed. So,
Yeah.
Birkin of chicken. And they're not great egg layers, but they're so pretty. Truly just like the Giselle Bundchen of chickens, if you will, like stunning. So, when they're little chicks, you have to have, like, a little heat lamp, and that's called a brooder, I think it's called, and that's where you just, like, have them for, like, a couple weeks until they get bigger, and then you have to put them in a coop outside,
Hmm.
but you don't want predators to come, so there's, like, a whole setup that you have to do to make sure no one's coming for your chickens,
Yeah.
especially these fancy chickens, and so that's kind of the, newest fixation for me is
That is
we are now
awesome.
chicken. I mean, it took me probably 1 loaf of sourdough that I made where I was like, "Alright, we're doing it, we're getting chickens,"
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I did not see this on my bingo card, but here we are. So, that's my fun thing, and I think we just do these random things, like, sometimes it's buying things like chickens, but the other
By
times,
the way, this is a story I probably would have followed and watched through if you had, like, posted it.
it's so
It's
good,
awesome.
and now I get to tell the story, but now that Ian knows. And I think part of this is sometimes, like, you just, like, set your mind to something and you do it, and you figure it out along the way, and it's, like, fun and exciting, and I think for my kids, that journey was so, like, okay, because all the other parents
Wild.
in town are like, "Oh, no, why?" Or like, "Oh, you don't need a
Yeah.
dog." And I was like, "Life's short, let's get some whatever, fine, Jonah, you want a farm animal? You get a farm animal, you get a
Yeah,
farm animal."
yeah.
And so that was so fun for us to just kinda do those things, and I think we do so many spontaneous last-minute trips or, like, go places and try new things, and I kinda want my kids to always have that, like, same zest for
Mm.
life, and there are very few things that are, like, no's at home. It's like certain things like you have to work hard and do well in school. That's like the obvious thing. But like if you want to like slip a little curse out because you feel like you just want to say the word shit. All right, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
yeah.
judge you. You could
Well,
say it.
when the value system is there, it's like if you're getting A's and
That's
you're
it.
doing that,
That's
like,
it. Do your
sure, it's
job. Like that's it. Your job as a kid is do well in school.
yeah,
Everything else follows. So, like, rewarding them for doing well and working hard, I'm more than happy to do it.
yeah.
And so some of those things that I think my parents or, like, my grandparents are very like, "No, these are the rules and this is the structure." I think because Ian and I have broken so much of the structure by, like, being entrepreneurs and doing what we wanna do whenever we wanna do it. I love to instill that in our own kids of like, "No, you could
Yeah.
have your chickens and not eat them too."
Same. I mean, I wasn't a doctor, lawyer. I married a white
Right.
girl. I was a DJ. Like it's I broke
Love that journey for you.
all the all of the
Yeah.
typical Indian cultural traditions. But that is honestly an inspiring story. Just because I mean, I have a young one now too, and I'm always thinking
I
about
mean,
like
you
how
live
can
in
I?
Kansas, you could have the
I
chickens
was
so
literally gonna
fast.
say. I was like, there's probably one just on
Your
down the
kid just
street.
picked one up today
Yeah,
at school, they gave him out.
they probably gave him out. That is incredible though, and that to me is inspiring to just be able to like break the mold even for your kids, because a lot of people don't involve their kids in situations like that, but
My kids
keep it
are the
yeah,
situation.
keeping them in the journey of doing
I know,
something
but
like
anyway,
that
so I
is
look at this and I'm
awesome.
like, "Oh my god, what a fun story it would have been to tell on social," but I wasn't thinking about it because I was just, like, living in the moment, but
Yeah,
someone on TikTok would love the crazy woman that was like, "Well, we're
yeah,
buying chickens." And so that's what I hope to bring more is, like, that little insight into our really fun life.
yeah,
And a big thing for my kids for like, they're gonna make choices in their life whether I like it or not, and I think a really liberating concept is kids are always gonna disappoint their parents, like, that's whether us as
mhm,
adults, like, disappointing our parents, like, you disappointed your parents because 'cause I'm sure they wanted lawyer, doctor, whatever, right?
yeah,
And it's okay. And so I just want my kids to be happy.
mm,
And if happiness means getting a chicken or cursing or doing whatever, like, be happy. That's it.
yeah,
And so that for me is, like, how I live and how I hope they live.
that's so awesome.
Yeah,
Seriously, and thank you for coming by. This
of
was
course.
amazing.
I have
This is
chickens at home that I have to go
yes,
tend
yes, you have
to.
to
I
go
have a whole
tend to.
farm.
I'm gonna be calling my wife
They're
and telling
so
her a
low
story about
maintenance, by the
this
way, like, they're
after.
just, like, hanging out, and I'm just, like, sitting there and staring. But
Yeah,
I think also what's so beautiful is, like, there's so much outside stimulus for us all the time, and, like, we're just, like, doing these things, but I think we often forget to kinda connect to nature sometimes, and that's kind of been the last thing for me in the last 6 months is we took our company this is another thing we do that's really fun, that
yeah.
maybe helps retention, maybe not, who knows? But every kinda couple months, because everyone's remote, we do a trip where we take everyone to a brand new city on a brand new experience, so, like, the first one we did last year was we all went to Mexico City, and we just, like, hung
Oh,
out,
that's
drank
awesome.
tequila, and, like, were together for days, and it wasn't like we were working during the day. We were just, like, hanging and being really just, like, friends, right? And
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing is working with people I love. And so we did in September of this past year, we did a ranch in Montana. And was never like, "Oh, I can't wait to do a ranch in Montana." Life-changing experience. Like, you
Mm,
wake up, it's silent, it's still, there's a horse in the background, and the noises and, like, the sound. I think I was craving a little bit of that, like, just nature, and the
yep,
chickens brought that to me. So,
that's incredible.
everyone go buy chickens.
That's
Not sponsored
amazing.
by Tractor Supply because they didn't have chickens.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I
Of
appreciate it.
course, thank